If you are still losing money with Trendlines or typical TA setup, stop right now. Stop right now. Today I'll walk you step by step through my real trade and show you precisely why these common methods fail and exactly how you could have made money yesterday using deep market structure alone. By the end of this video, you'll never see trading the same way again. So stick till the end. Now, forget about this fin for a moment. Let's draw a bit. Let's imagine, let's imagine you see a picture, something like this. Let it be like this. Okay? We see this little trend. What would be your two scenarios? And up breakthrough and down breakthrough. Yes? Yes. I know it. Okay. So, what happens next? Where would you take your trades? Where would you take your trades? You would wait for something like this and you would take your trade here after the actual breakthrough, all right? Or after the retest. After the retest, okay? So the same scenario applies here, just in the opposite direction. These are your expectations. So these, all these are just this moment. Is this your expectations? Now, let me show you a real example which happened this week. This week with the S&P 500. Yes, I'm trading futures S&P 500. If you are new to my channel, and I'm using W free flow approach. If you don't understand what I'm talking about, I always strongly recommend you to go to my educational playlist and watch every video as many times as needed. Okay, this is a 15-minute auction, but let's start from the very beginning. You see this, you see this moment, this little moment, and you draw this trend line. And what would you usually expect? You would expect a breakthrough, and as I showed you in the previous drawing, you would take a trade here if you are an aggressive trader, or if you would take your trade here if you are a conservative trader. But why? Why this breakthrough happens? And in both cases, you would be stopped out. So you can clearly see it. Okay? What are the mistakes? First of all, you can't analyze the market taking just this little rotation alone. This is a mistake. You scale your charts the wrong way. You do not analyze the market like it should be analyzed. Okay? Now, let's start from the very beginning so you can understand by the end of the video, as I promised, why this thing happened. First of all, as I already said, this is a 15-minute time frame. Here, what we see here, this thing could have become potentially a balance, but it never happened and it transitioned to a volatility. What is the task? What was the task of this volatility? To reposition this top border. Top border. Simple, simple. What is reposition? Reposition is an impulse. Impulse. In this case, in the upper direction. All right. So what happens here? We see this rotation, this little rotation, and looks like nothing happens. So let's get back to the previous week. Just quickly. On the previous week, we had 2 trading days. It was Tuesday and Thursday. This was the rhythm of the previous week. Each week has a certain rhythm. It can be broken or it can be right. The previous week it was the right. We had the right rhythm. 2 days, 2 trading days. Now this week. And by the way, rhythms hardly ever repeat themselves. So I didn't think that the same rhythm would happen this week. No. Okay, what we see. Monday, volatility, nothing happens. Let me actually get to the 1 minute time frame. Monday, volatility, nothing happens. Neutral, we see this neutral closure. I hope you can see my charts. Neutral closure, the overnight volumes are low and we don't see a positive closure up. As I said about the rhythm, I didn't assume that the market would repeat the rhythm of the previous week. Now, Tuesday, what happened to Tuesday? We see this negative closure. Overnight volumes, which were actually pretty big volumes, are positioned as selling volumes, but we don't see a negative closure. Wednesday could have two scenarios. This is Wednesday. Could have two scenarios. What was the negative scenario? The negative scenario here was this. Breaking through this level, and in this case, we would change our priority to sell for the rest of the week, for the second half of the week. And the second scenario was holding this level and showing us bias reactivation. And this is exactly what happened. Now, could you participate in this day? Let me explain. You could. If you understand the structure like I do, you could. But this was an aggressive trade. Let me explain. So what happened here? Yes, we see this buyer spike and 940. This is a timing, specialist timing. This is a timing for capture volatility. Would we participate in this day? I could, and I did. But it was an aggressive trade and I took just one lot. I decided not to increase my risk. Why should I? So you'll see a screenshot of my trade somewhere here. I'll attach it. I decided not to record shorts. I decided to explain my trades. I think this would be a better approach for you to understand everything, to understand the structure. I'm talking to you. I want it to be like a personal talk to you. I want to educate you and show my logic behind everything happening on the market when I see something interesting, something out of the structure, something in the structure, something complicated, something easy, like everything. I'm trying to show you all possible situations happening on the market and explain everything to you. What happened next? Why it was an aggressive trade? So actually, this little spike could have become a rotation here and the price could go lower this level. Could it happen? Yes, this is why my risk was low. I'm always following my risk management rules and that's it. And now we see this close up and the buyer has won. And this is it. Okay, so the priority, of course, the priority for the rest of the week, my priority is buy. Now. Just let me walk you through the current market situation. Weekly time frame. I always do my analysis starting from the weekly time frame and ending with the 15-minute time frame. So what do we see on the weekly auction? This is a macro model, which dictates the low time frames, what should be done, what should be traded, everything. Here we potentially see a fix. All right? So what happens here? Here we potentially see a balance forming. We have an influencer fix, and here we have an initial trade. But we can't confirm this is a true balance until we see a responsive activity. Buyers or sellers responsive activity, we don't see it here. As I already said, to understand the market structure I'm talking about, go to my educational playlist and watch every video as many times as needed to understand everything I'm talking about here. Now, next, daily time frame. Here we have a balance, a true balance. We had a fix, then we had an initial trade, and this was the first segment of the balance. Now we have a responsive activity, seller's responsive activity, and then now we have potentially forming a buyer's responsive activity. Or we have two scenarios here. This movement can become a buyer's responsive activity, or it can become it can form a third segment next. And here we have a factor, a selling factor here on the daily time frame. And this is a responsive activity. This is the only and main factor right now for a sell. Let's move to the hourly time frame. Hourly time frame. In the current contract, we potentially also have a balance. We see a fix. Here we see a fix. Then we see an inertial trade. What can happen next? Somewhere in this area, we can see a responsive activity, sales responsive activity forming. But for now, this looks just like a capture volatility, nothing else. Once again, we can confirm this is a true balance only after we have a full responsive activity fully formed. Okay? This is all I wanted to share with you today. As I always say, learn the market structure the way I do and find the best possible trades throughout the week. There are usually one or two very clear and easy days to trade. If we take this exact day, this day was not so hard to participate in. At the same time, if you don't understand the structure, the market structure, like I do, if you try to capture little movements, if you don't understand where to take a trade, if you don't understand where to put your take profit, you would never be consistently profitable, all right? And this is my goal here, to help you, to give you as much value as possible. Okay, I think that's enough. See you in the next video.